when I see in the gaming industry right now is going through some contractions. Right? I see in my LinkedIn all the time people getting laid off at studios left and right, but these are traditional studios as they contract. And I keep on wanting to scream, get involved in Web3 gaming because it's getting bigger and bigger. It's got more, it had some growing pains at the beginning, but it's getting more mature. And I think, I have to keep on making that point over and over again, but it's same for you that, coming from the traditional or the Web2 technology sector and getting into Web3, are you having that same feeling of, boy, I wish more people would understand that this is a place to go if your career is like stunted, and then how do they get there?
Yeah. I think, like obviously there's still sort of like that like stigma associated with kind of like Web3 and crypto in a lot of sort of like, like mainstream folks' minds who are like in the Web2 world and, have just heard about things like FTX and Celsius and just don't want to deal with anything like that. So I think what will kind of tend to happen now, I think, especially with Bitcoin above 100K, I think, like interest in the space will continue to get renewed. And I think like a lot more people will start being like, oh, like, let me go check this out and see what kind of cool stuff they're building there now. And the reality is like, we've been building cool stuff in Web3 like forever, right? Like whether it's a bull market, whether it's a bear market, like, builders like build and kind of constantly try to solve like cool problems. So I think for me, like what really worked for me in terms of kind of making that switch from Web2 to Web3, I think it depends on sort of like what layer you want to go into, right? So it's like, I think for me, jumping into Kraken, Kraken's almost like, it's kind of like a Web2 business that touches Web3, right? Because it's like infrastructure for buying like tokens and things like that. So for that, it was very much sort of like a more of like a, proper tech recruiting job process, like LinkedIn, all that stuff, right? Which is like way more like normal. But I think if you want to, jump into sort of like more of these like exciting projects that are actually building on the blockchain, like really kind of doing like cool stuff in new innovative spaces in Web3, I think there's a couple different ways, right? I think like being on Twitter is pretty underrated because I think you kind of have to just like be part of the dialogue there, just like have a presence there, start like just finding like the people who talk about interesting stuff, like, and actually not feel afraid to like reach out to them and just DM them. I think one thing that really struck me a lot kind of trying to jump into like Web3 was, when you're in Web2 and you're trying to like reach out to just whatever VP or C-suite at like, these other bigger companies, they're typically really hard to get in touch with because their like inboxes are like constantly inundated with stuff. And, they just kind of like glaze over a lot of these things. But with Web3 founders, like I've actually literally just been able to like DM people on Twitter who I thought were like, just going to be way too busy to ever talk to like a random nobody, like, at the time who I like had no name in Web3 and they actually responded.
You're filling up our DMs right now. Right now, everyone's going to hit both our DMs thinking, oh, these guys just said it was very easy to reach out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, of course, don't make your messages like spammy, right? Like just copy paste stuff. Like you have to be like a little more sort of like thoughtful about what your approach is. And, you'll get, and if you get on a call with someone, it's like, yeah, you have like 20 minutes to really like make an impression. So you have to make it count.
YOM.